Okay, so like, imagine this. You're a star NFL wide receiver,
Yeah.
and you get offered your salary, not in like regular old dollars,
Right.
but in Bitcoin.
Whoa.
Would you take that deal,
Mm.
knowing that Bitcoin could just skyrocket or completely tank?
Yeah.
That's the gamble Odell Beckham Jr. took back in 2021 when he signed with the Rams.
Oh, wow.
Bitcoin was sitting pretty at around $64,000 then, but we all know how wild that ride can be.
It was a bold move for sure. Then at the time, a lot of people thought he was crazy.
Yeah.
MarketWatch even ran an article basically saying, is OBJ making a huge financial mistake?
Wow.
They highlighted Bitcoin's volatility, those massive price swings,
Yeah.
and the fact that it had already dropped 74% from its all-time high.
So a lot of red flags right out of the gate.
Yeah.
But fast forward to today, and Bitcoin has seen some pretty impressive rebounds.
It has.
It seems like Beckham might have actually come out on top,
He did.
even going so far as to brag about it on social media.
Of course.
That's the fascinating part of this story. It's not just about Beckham and his gamble.
Right.
It's a window into how we all think about risk and reward,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to something as new and volatile as cryptocurrency.
Absolutely. Right.
It makes you wonder, what if those skeptics back in 2021 had jumped on the Bitcoin train alongside OBJ?
Uh-huh.
Would they be singing a different tune now?
Interesting.
This whole thing reminds me of the story about David Cho, the artist who famously got paid in Facebook stock instead of cash for painting their offices back in 2005.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone thought he was nuts.
Right.
But then Facebook went public, and boom, he was a multimillionaire.
But here's the thing, and it's an important point to remember. Both Beckham and Cho's stories are outliers. They're the exceptions, not the rule.
Right.
We can't look at these isolated cases and say, see, taking huge risks always pays off.
Absolutely. It's easy to get caught up in the hype, but we need to be realistic.
For sure.
So what are the key lessons here? For you listening in, think about this. Would you have taken Beckham's gamble? And what does his story tell us about how we approach risk and the potential for big rewards, even in the face of skepticism and uncertainty?
It really boils down to understanding your own risk tolerance.
Yeah.
How much are you comfortable potentially losing?
Uh-huh.
And are you in it for the long haul?
Yeah.
Because as we've seen, even with something as volatile as Bitcoin, there can be significant gains over time. But it's crucial to diversify, to not put all your eggs in one basket, so to speak.
Now, let's say someone's hearing this and thinking, okay, I'm intrigued by Bitcoin, but where do I even begin?
Right.
Our source actually provides a step-by-step guide to buying Bitcoin.
Okay.
They mention reputable platforms like Coinbase, Kraken, and Gemini, even Cash App, which Beckham himself uses.
And they make a point of warning people about the risks of using Bitcoin ATMs. Often those ATMs have much higher fees and might not have the same level of security as a well-established platform.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
So security is key. The source also mentions something called cold storage. What exactly is that?
Cold storage is essentially storing your Bitcoin offline. Think of it like a digital safe. It's typically done using a hardware wallet, a small physical device that's not connected to the internet.
Gotcha.
This makes it much harder for hackers to steal your Bitcoin.
Ah, okay, that makes sense. So you're taking your Bitcoin off the grid, essentially. And speaking of managing your finances, it's interesting that Beckham apparently uses a reverse budgeting approach. He invests first and then spends what's left over.
Which is a strategy that many successful investors follow. The idea is to prioritize your long-term financial goals over immediate gratification. But of course, this approach requires discipline and a solid understanding of your income and expenses.
Definitely. Not everyone can just throw a chunk of their paycheck into Bitcoin and hope for the best. And for those who might be a little intimidated by the thought of diving headfirst into Bitcoin, the source also mentions a strategy called dollar cost averaging. It sounds a lot less scary than trying to time the market perfectly, which, let's be honest, most of us can't do.
That's right. Dollar cost averaging involves investing a fixed amount at regular intervals, regardless of the price. So, for example, you might decide to buy $50 worth of Bitcoin every week. This helps to smooth out the volatility inherent in something like Bitcoin.
So instead of stressing out about whether Bitcoin is going up or down today, you're taking a more steady, long-term approach.
Exactly. And over time, as you consistently invest, you end up averaging out your purchase price, which can be really beneficial, especially in a market as volatile as cryptocurrency.
Makes sense. Now, before anyone rushes out to buy a mountain of Bitcoin, we need to talk about the elephant in the room.
Taxes. Yes.
The tax man always gets his cut. And this is where things get a little tricky with cryptocurrency. The IRS doesn't see Bitcoin as currency. They see it as property.
Oh.
So any profits you make from buying and selling Bitcoin are treated as capital gains.
So it's not like your regular paycheck where taxes are automatically withheld. You're responsible for tracking your gains and reporting them on your tax return. That's right. And capital gains taxes can be significant depending on how long you've held the asset and your income bracket.
Yeah.
So it's essential to factor in potential tax liabilities when you're developing your investment strategy.
Definitely. It's not just about the potential profits. It's about understanding the whole picture, including the tax implications. So we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about Beckham's gamble, the allure of big rewards, the importance of risk management, and even the practicalities of buying Bitcoin and dealing with taxes. It's a lot to digest. What are some of the key takeaways that you think are most important for our listener to remember?
For me, it all comes back to informed decision-making. Whether you're intrigued by Bitcoin or any other type of investment, it's crucial to do your research, understand the risks involved, and develop a strategy that aligns with your financial goals and risk tolerance. Don't just jump into something because it sounds exciting or because someone else is doing it.
Right. It's about taking ownership of your financial future and not being afraid to ask questions. If something doesn't make sense, dig deeper, consult with a financial advisor, or seek out reputable sources of information. There's no shame in learning and being cautious,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to your hard-earned money.
And I think it's also important to remember that the financial world is constantly evolving. What's considered risky today might be commonplace tomorrow. Think about how many people were skeptical of the internet in its early days.
Yeah,
Or how many people thought investing in Apple stock back in the 90s was a bad idea. Sometimes the biggest rewards come from embracing change and being open to new possibilities.
that's a great point. It's about having that balance between caution and a willingness to explore new horizons. So as we wrap up our deep dive into Bitcoin and Odell Beckham Jr.'s wild ride, I'm going to leave you with this final thought. If you had Beckham's faith in Bitcoin back in 2021, what would you be investing in right now that others might see as too risky? What's your long game? What are you betting on that might seem crazy now but could potentially pay off big down the line?
It's a thought-provoking question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It really challenges us to think beyond the conventional, to consider what emerging trends or technologies might hold the same disruptive potential as Bitcoin did back then. Maybe it's something in the world of artificial intelligence, renewable energy, or even the metaverse.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be something as grand or complex as those examples. It could be investing in your own skills or education, starting a side hustle, or simply putting your money into a diversified portfolio of index funds.
Yeah.
The key is to be intentional, to have a plan, and to be willing to adapt as the world changes around us.
Absolutely. And remember, the most successful investors and innovators are often those who are willing to take calculated risks to bet on the future even when others doubt them. So as you consider your own long game, don't be afraid to think big, to challenge the status quo, and to embrace the possibilities that lie ahead.
It's all about keeping that sense of curiosity and that willingness to learn and grow. And who knows, maybe one day, years from now, we'll be looking back at your crazy investment and saying, wow, you're really onto something.
I love that perspective. It's a reminder that what seems outlandish today could be the norm tomorrow. The key is to be informed, to think critically, and to have the courage to follow your own path, even when it diverges from the crowd.
And on that note, I think we've reached the bottom of our deep dive for today. We've explored the world of Bitcoin, dissected Odell Beckham Jr.'s bold gamble, and delved into complexities of risk-reward and the ever-changing landscape of finance.
It's been a fascinating journey, and I hope our listener has gained some valuable insights and perhaps even a few new ideas to ponder as they navigate their own financial journeys.
Absolutely. Remember, knowledge is power. And the more you understand about the world of investing, the better equipped you'll be to make informed decisions and chart your own course toward financial success.
Well said. And who knows, maybe one day we'll have you back on the show to share your own success story.
I'd love that. But until then, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep. That's it for this episode of The Deep Dive. Thanks for joining us.